Hey there, Griff Hamlin here from Blues Guitar Unleashed. Welcome, thanks for joining me. In today's video, we're going to talk about one of my all-time favorite patterns. It's a very simple pattern. It's a very effective pattern. It's also probably one of the most misunderstood patterns. And I call it the house pattern, and I got that name simply from one of my students who looked at it on the page and said, hey, that looks like an upside down house. And it has been the house pattern ever since. Let me show you. We're going to start off with a root somewhere. Okay, now I don't really think about note names when I use this pattern. And in fact, I don't really think about note names very often at all, particularly when I am playing in some pattern. But what I do think about is whether something is a root or a second or a fourth or a fifth or a sixth, as these are. Those numbers indicate where those notes would occur in the major scale. Okay, so that's kind of important. A lot of people will call these intervals. They're not intervals. They're scale degrees. It's two entirely different things. An interval, you have to have a starting note and an ending note. And we don't have that. We just have a note, right? So we have, for example, let's put that back on screen. We have a root, right? In the key of, I'm gonna play a blues in A. So that's going to be an A. Now that could be E for a blues in E. Could be G. Right? Or it could be A, as I'm going to do for my example today. Doesn't matter. The pattern doesn't change. And I have my root, in this case, 10th fret, second string. I have a 2, okay, the second of the scale. A 4 and a 5. Notice that I don't have a third. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are all the possibilities. I have 1, I have 2, I have a 6 down here, I have a 4, and I have a 5. But I do not have a 7, and I do not have a 3. Okay, so the first question that I'm almost always asked about this, and by the way, you'll hear this often called the BB King box or the BB King pattern. And I don't like to call it that, primarily because, yes, B.B. King later in his career did use that pattern a lot. And he used it early in his career as well. But I've transcribed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of measures of B.B. King's solos in my lifetime. He didn't use that nearly as much as people say he did. It does kind of naturally lend itself to sounding a little B.B. King-ish. But he often got that same sound in other ways. Also, he got it from T-Bone Walker and Lonnie Johnson before him. So it's not like it was his first. Right? So anyway, I don't like to call it the B.B. King pattern because that sort of indicates a certain sound. And you may not want that sound out of this pattern. And you don't have to get that sound out of this pattern. So be that as it may, the biggest question that I get is, okay, well, is this the major blues scale or is it the minor blues scale? And the answer is it's neither. And that's really, really important for you to understand. It's neither, and it's kind of both. Okay, so here's the deal. Both the major and the minor blues scales or pentatonic scales have a root. Okay, so we got a root. Both of them have a 5. We got a 5. Only the minor pentatonic scale has a 4. Only the major pentatonic scale has a 2. Only the major pentatonic scale has a 6. But there's no indication here at all, because we don't have a third, as to whether or not this is major or minor. The only note that is allowed to determine whether something is major or minor is the third. If we have a natural third, then we have a major sound. Okay, now the way we're going to get there is we're going to bend the 2. Right? So if we bend that 2 up a whole step, we get what's considered the major third, and we have a major sounding thing. Not a major pentatonic scale, not a major blues scale, because it isn't. But we have a major sounding group of notes. Again, I know that's a little ambiguous, but that's okay. It sounds cool, so we can go with it, right? So if I do something like I give you a lick that looks like this, and you'll notice I'm starting on the 6th of the scale and the way I count this is I go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So I have 6, root, 6, major third. I'm going to bend that 2 up and get me a major third. Return to the 2, root, 6, root. Again, I'm going to bend that 2 up to the major third. So if I play this lick nice and slow, try and play it with me if you can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Now, right away, yes, that gives a little bit of a B.B. King sound because of the major third. That was something that was characteristic to B.B. King's sound. He did use the major third probably more than, say, Albert King used the major third. However, again, you could get that sound in a lot of different ways, so don't think that that's the only way it can be done. Nonetheless, this is a great lick. Now, you noticed I played it kind of slow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Okay, well, what happens if we want to change this to a minor sound or change any lick to a minor sound? We don't have to change the pattern. You may not have even noticed that things changed on screen just there. The whole step bend went to a half step bend. So now my 2, that 12th fret on the 2nd string, is only going to bend a half step. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we have the major version. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and then we have the minor version. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. All right, so right away you might be thinking, ooh, got to work on my bends. Yes, you do have to get the bends happening. You got to be able to hit the whole step bend or the half step bend. Okay, and that's very important. Now, you might not be aware of this, but there are certain times in the blues progression when we want a more major sound, or we can use a more major sound, and certain times when we can't. First of all, you can use the minor sounding bend, the half step. You can use that anytime over the 12-bar blues, or an 8-bar blues, or a 16-bar blues. It doesn't matter. If it's a blues, meaning it's got 3 dominant 7th chords, 1, 4, and 5, you're good to go, okay? So there are thousands and thousands and thousands of songs that fall into that category. And to be perfectly honest, a lot of classic rock stuff will fall into that category too. So you can use the minor all the time. But when the 1 chord is happening, okay, so if we have a blues in A, that's A7, D7, E7, right? The A7 chord gives us the opportunity to use that more major sound as opposed to the minor. Okay, so if you take a look again at this lick, okay, there's the minor version, right? There's the major version. What I want to point out to you is that there's 2 places there where that bend happens, right? We have 1, 2, 3 right there, 4, 1, and right there. Okay, so in the middle and at the end, there are 2 places. Your ear, in order to do this right and to do this effectively, your ear has to be able to make that change between the major and the minor, depending on what chord is going on right now. Now, if the chord doesn't change in the middle of your lick, great, that's pretty easy, but it is possible because we have 2 measures of lick. We're crossing the bar line. It's entirely possible that we could be doing, say, the 4 chord over that first bar, and then it could return to the 1 chord, and I might have to switch back to the major bend just on the second one. Okay, so you gotta pay attention to that kind of stuff. So here's what I'm gonna do. Now, first of all, with all licks, you should be able to play it and count it out nice and slow. So 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. You should be able to do that without looking at the screen, without having to write it down. You gotta have it up here, okay? Just like speaking, if you were just talking to a friend, you don't have to look at the words. You know words, you know phrases, you know things to say. If you don't have this memorized, you're not gonna be able to speak with it, okay? Same as talking. It's the same thing. So first, you gotta do that. I want you to try to get it up to a nice, comfortable pace. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Right? A nice, kind of comfortable shuffle pattern. Get it super, just so that it's a comfortable thing to play. Check out what's gonna happen now is I've got a little jam track, and I'll share this jam track with you. It's 2 choruses through. We're gonna play this over that jam track. And we're gonna keep our big listening ears open, because as the chords change, when it goes to the 4, when it goes back to the 5, I wanna use the minor version of this lick. Check it out. Here comes the track. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Major version, right? Because this is the 1 chord. 2, 3, 1. Here's the 4 chord. So I just did a little minor bend at the end, right? Here I'm back to the major. And here's gonna be minor, 5 chord. Major. But minor, because the last chord's 5. Major. Major again, because it's all 1. Here's 4, so minor. Back to the 1. Here's the 5. And the 4. The 1. And the 5. So you'll notice, whenever that 1 chord is going on, I'm gonna go ahead and get that full step bend. Whenever the 4 or the 5 are going on, I'm just gonna do that half step bend. That's the trick to really understanding at least how this same pattern can work for both major and minor blues sounds. Now, this is obviously a heck of a lot easier than switching between entire box systems. Right? You know, a lot of people think of like going from major or major to minor. Right? And there's all these different boxes, and I got to do this and move down 3 frets. And no, you're not going to do any of that. Okay, that's one of the reasons I really love this pattern. Minor, major. Okay, so you're really using your ear, right? You don't have to think so much of pattern. It's 5 notes. Most people can learn that in about 18 seconds. It's not that tough. But being able to use it and use it effectively, a whole different ball of wax. So the first thing I want you to do to really get the hang of this is just what I demonstrated. I'm gonna give you this jam track. You can download it. I will put the 2 versions of the lick, I'll say, in a little PDF that you can download in case you need it. But remember, you gotta get off the page as soon as possible. So read it a few times, hum it to yourself, do whatever you gotta do. Make sure you count it out loud. I know I didn't make a big ruckus on this video about the counting out loud like I usually do, but I figure you've probably seen videos from me before and you know what a big deal that is. So make sure you count out loud, make sure you play nice and slow. If you have a slower jam track that you would prefer to play it over, that's fine, or you wanna slow this one down. This one's only about 105 beats a minute. It's a nice kind of lazy shuffle. But I think it's a good speed to be able to do this comfortably. Okay, so I'm gonna leave those for you. Go ahead and grab those, give them a whirl. In our next video, I'm gonna show you a cool lick that uses this pattern. And I'll have a few of those coming for you, so I hope you'll come back for those. All right, take care, bye-bye.